in the dusty heart of the Arizona Territory, where the sun scorched the earth like a branding iron and coyotes howled secrets to the moon. A lone farmer named Jedediah Harlan scratched out a living on his parched homestead, but little did he know that fate was about to saddle him with a whirlwind of desire and danger. Subscribe now for more epic Wild West tales that will transport you back to the untamed frontier. Hit that button and join the adventure. Jedediah wiped the sweat from his brow as he tended to his meager cornfield, the relentless heat beating down on his weathered frame, his calloused hands gripping the hoe like a lifeline in a sea of isolation. He'd been alone since his wife passed from fever 5 years back. The cabin silent except for the creak of wind through cracked boards and the occasional lowing of a single milk cow. The Apache wars had simmered down, but whispers of restless spirits and robed bands still haunted the saloons in Tombstone, and Jedediah, a man of few words and fewer friends, preferred the solitude of his valley, ringed by jagged red rocks that stood like silent sentinels. One fateful twilight, as the sky bled orange and purple, he heard a rumble like distant thunder, but it grew closer, shaking the ground beneath his boots, and from behind a massive boulder emerged a figure that defied belief, a woman, an Apache giantess, towering at least 8 feet tall, her bronze skin glistening under the fading sun, clad in deerskin fringes and feathers that whispered of ancient rituals, her black hair cascading like a midnight river down her broad shoulders. She moved with the grace of a mountain lion, yet her eyes, dark and piercing, held a hunger that wasn't for food or water. "I'm starving for a man's touch," she said in a voice like rolling thunder, her words laced with a mix of ferocity and longing that pinned Jedediah to the spot, his heart pounding faster than a galloping mustang. He stammered, dropping his hoe, his mind racing through tales he'd heard of mythical beings born from the spirits of the land. But this was no ghost. She was flesh and blood, her presence overwhelming, her stature making him feel like a child gazing up at a storm cloud. Her name was Najoni, meaning beautiful in her tongue, but beauty for her was a curse, for she was the last of a forgotten clan, cursed by a shaman's spell after a betrayal in love, grown to giant proportions to protect her people, yet now alone, her tribe scattered by settlers' guns and broken treaties. Najoni had wandered the canyons for moons, her massive frame sustaining on roots and game she hunted with bare hands, but the ache in her soul was deeper than any canyon, a yearning for connection that no amount of solitude could quench. Jedediah, though terrified, felt a spark ignite in his lonely heart. He invited her to his fire that night, sharing his sparse meal of beans and cornbread, her laughter echoing like boulders tumbling as he recounted his simple life, and in her eyes he saw reflections of his own isolation. As stars wheeled overhead, she spoke of her past, the raids, the losses, the spell that made her untouchable, for no man dared approach a woman who could crush him with a glance. But Jedediah, with his quiet strength forged in hardship, reached out a tentative hand, touching her arm, feeling the warmth beneath the muscle, and she trembled, her giant form shrinking not in size, but in vulnerability, whispering, "It's been so long since I felt gentle hands." The night deepened their bond, conversations flowing like the rare desert rains, and by dawn, an unlikely alliance formed. Najoni vowed to help him with his farm, her strength uprooting stubborn mesquite and hauling water from distant springs in strides that covered miles. Yet danger lurked, for word of the giant Indian spread like wildfire through the territory, drawing bounty hunters and curious fools, led by a ruthless sheriff named Blackjack Thorne, who saw her as a freak to capture for a traveling circus or worse, a threat to exterminate. Jedediah armed himself with his old Winchester, teaching Najoni the ways of the white man's world while she shared Apache lore that touches growing boulder, her fingers tracing his scars from bar fights and branding accidents, his lips brushing her cheek in moments stolen under the vast sky. One scorching afternoon, as they irrigated the fields, a posse thundered in, dust clouds heralding their arrival, Black Jack sneering from atop his black stallion. "Hand over the savage, farmer, or we'll burn you out." Najoni rose like a titan, her roar shaking the valley, but Jedediah stood firm beside her, rifle cocked, declaring, "She's no savage, she's my partner." The shootout erupted like a powder keg, bullets whizzing as Najoni hurled rocks the size of wagon wheels, smashing horses and scattering men, while Jedediah picked off the stragglers with precise shots honed from years of hunting. Blood stained the sand, but victory came at a cost. A graze on Jedediah's shoulder, tended by Najoni's gentle hands that night, her touch evolving from comfort to passion, their bodies entwining in the cabin's dim light, her giant form careful yet fervent, awakening sensations he'd long forgotten, her moans like the wind through the pines. Days blurred into weeks, their love a beacon in the wilderness, but the curse weighed heavy. Najoni revealed that only true love's embrace could break it. Yet doubt crept in. Was his affection enough, or was it pity for her plight? They journeyed to the sacred mesa, where the spell was cast, facing trials of spirit and flesh, evading Apache warriors who saw her as a deity to reclaim, and settlers who branded her a monster. In a cavern lit by glowing crystals, they confronted the shaman's ghost, a swirling apparition demanding proof of their bond. Jedediah professed his love, not for her strength, but for her soul, and as they kissed under the ethereal light, a tremor shook the earth, Najoni's form shimmering, shrinking to a normal height, her eyes wide with wonder as she felt the world anew. Freed, they returned to the farm, but peace was fleeting. Black Jack, humiliated, rallied a larger force, ambushing them at dawn. The battle raged fierce, Najoni now agile and swift, wielding a tomahawk with deadly precision, Jedediah's bullets a symphony of defense. But outnumbered, they fled into the canyons, their love fueling a desperate escape. Hiding in hidden grottos, they planned their counterstrike, forging alliances with sympathetic outlaws and remnant Apache scouts, turning the tide in a climactic showdown at the old mission ruins, where gunfire echoed off adobe walls, bodies falling like autumn leaves. Victorious, they claimed a bounty on Blackjack, using it to expand the farm into a thriving ranch, their union a symbol of bridged worlds, white and native, small and giant, lonely and loved. Years passed, children born with her fire and his steadiness, tales of the giant Apache girl becoming legend around campfires. But for Jedediah and Najoni, it was simply home, touches shared in the quiet evenings, starving no more. And if you're hooked on this Wild West saga, drop a comment below telling us from which part of the country you're watching this video, whether it's the dusty plains of Texas or the snowy peaks of Colorado. We want to hear from you.